This lesson is over composite figures. We're still finding the area, hopefully from the video. Shouldn't be too challenging for us. Okay, so sometimes you'll see that a composite figure is sometimes called a compound shape, which makes perfect sense for that. You know from like your English classes, a compound sentence is two or more sentences that have been put together. So a compound shape, a composite figure, is just two or more shapes put together. And so it's made up of more than one shape. And so what you'll need to do is just make different shapes, but try to make a shape that you have the formula for. Sometimes kids get crazy with it, and they'll make like a pentagon inside of a pentagon, or make like a circle or a cone, those type of things. Don't do that. Keep it to the simple stuff, rectangles, squares, triangles, those type of things. Once you get the area of each shape, then all you need to do is just add them together. Okay, so looking at this first shape, you see that you have an arrow, and then we need to cut this into different shapes. The most important thing to make sure you do is get the correct measurements for this. So if I was to cut this into two shapes, you see right here, the shape here, this is now a rectangle. So if I was to just separate that from the whole problem, I'll draw that right here. You have your 8 on this side, and on top you have 10. And so finding the area for your rectangle, this part should be fairly simple. Look back in your notes. Your rectangle is just your length times the width. You're just multiplying the two sides. So this is going to be 80. If you wanted to, sometimes people put them in the shape so that you keep it. So now I need to look at this next shape, and I see that I have a triangle. So if I was to take this triangle and just cut it off, I'm going to put it right here. You also see from the bottom, you see this, it says it's 5. And so what that's telling you is if you were to put that in the shape, that is telling you this right here is going to be 5. So the distance from the bottom to the top, that's your height, that would be 5. And so one thing to be careful with your triangle is you need to make sure to have the right numbers. If you see this 3 here, it tells you it is this part of the triangle, about right here. And then if I look at this 3, that is going to represent this part. However, we have this yellow line right here. I don't like that blue on that. I'll just keep that, go red. This line right here, that was that part of the rectangle, that is going to be right here. We still have to have a number for this part of the line. And so if you look at your rectangle, opposite sides are always the same length. So this distance right here is going to be 8. So this 8 is going to be this number here. So this entire triangle, this base is going to be 3 plus 8 plus 3. All of those make up that line. So 3 plus 3 is 6, 6 plus 8 is 14. So in my triangle, that whole side is 14. And then it tells me, going down the middle with the height, that equals 5. So once again, we have to make sure we include all of the sides that make that one edge of the triangle. So now I'm working with the triangle, and for a triangle, you have the base times the height divided by 2, because your triangle is half of a parallelogram, or it's half of a triangle. So the base times height is 14 times 5, and I have to divide that by 2. So if I was to simplify this out, 14 divided by 2 is 7. 7 times 5 equals 35 for my answer. Okay, so now I got my two shapes. I'm going to clean this up just a little bit so we can see what we're doing. Keep cleaning. So I have inside my triangle, it was 35. The rectangle that we did was 80. So now I just add these two numbers up and I get my final answer. So I have 35 plus 80. It's 115 meters squared. As long as the directions say find the area, that is going to be squared. Okay, so in this next shape, we'll work this one together. Just a little trivia for you. Does anybody know the name of this shape? If you're not for sure, if you have a guess, the answer would be a pentagon. Usually it's not what we think of with a pentagon, but if you count the number of sides, it's 5-sided. All 5-sided polygons are called pentagons. Okay, so when working this one, make the shape into problems, into shapes that are easy to work with. Some students like to be difficult. When I mean difficult, here's what I'm talking about. Some kids split the shape this way, which is fine because when you do that, you now have created a trapezoid and a trapezoid. Yes, you had the formula for that. However, I don't recommend using trapezoids if you don't have to. So if I was to try this again, I would cut this right here into a triangle, because if you look at this shape right here, you notice that it's a square, each side is the same, and so 8 times 8, that is going to equal, if I can erase this, 8 times 8, that is going to equal 64. So this distance inside is 64. Next I need to do is the triangle. So I'm going to cut the triangle off and put it over here to work with. So I see that this side is 6 meters. I also see, it's not a very good example now that I look at it, I also see this is 6 as well. And so if I was to bring this into the triangle, it would be these lines here, and it's going to make a 90-degree angle here. So this is the base, this is the height, which is going to be this 6. Don't get that mixed up with the other 6. It's not this 6, but it will be 6 from the height. So now when I do my formula for the triangle, I have the base times the height. The height is 6. I know I'm dividing by 2. To find the base, I need to find this side here because it's connected to the 90-degree angle. So if I go back to my shape and I put the triangle back where it is, here's the 90-degree angle. This 6 belongs right here. I need to figure out this line. So if you go back to your rules of what a square is, opposite sides are the same. So this 8 is also the same as this side. So this is going to be 8. So my problem is going to be 8, that's the base, times 6, which is the height. I'm going to divide that by 2. 8 times 6, you can do that. It's 48 divided by 2. But I also recommend simplifying first. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 times 6, that equals 24. Okay, so your triangle is going to be 24. So I'm going to erase some of this stuff so that we can read it a little bit better. You can either put your answers into the shape, or more importantly, just have a space, enough space to work and write out your numbers. So I have 64 and then I have 24. So I add those together. This equals 88, and this is in meters. So that is meters squared. So in this problem, I would encourage you to pause the video, try it yourself just to see how you do, and then check your work afterwards. So when you split your shape, you want to split it to where it's easy to work with. And so if I was to split this one this way, which is not very good, if I was to split it this way, this would be hard to get some of my answers, because if you look, I'm not exactly for sure how much is on this side and exactly how much this is. And so cutting the shape where you cannot find the answers, the numbers, that is, we want to do something different. Okay, so I'm going to cut this one. I'm going to cut it this way. So I see my first shape, this one. This is going to be 15 times 15. And so I'm going to work that on the side. When y'all get into high school, you'll learn these squared numbers. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 2 is 7. Place value, 1 times 5. 1 times 1. This equals 225. So we know we're going to add that in just a moment. So if I look at my next shape, I have 2 rectangles, or 1 rectangle. I have 50 times 10, because it's length times the width. 50 times 10. 0 times 0, then the next 5 times 0, 5 times 1. This is 500. So here are my 2 numbers for this problem. This equals 725. This is in feet, so we're going to square that. So there's my answer for this one. Okay, this is the last problem. I'd encourage you to pause it also and just try it, just to see how you do, just to see if you get some practice on your own, and then self-check afterwards. Okay, so this shape is an octagon. You might disagree with that, because when we think of an octagon, we think of a stop sign. But we call that an octagon because it has 8 sides. If you count the sides up here, you'll see that you have 8 sides as well. So this is actually an octagon. Okay, so I need to split this, and I want to split it in ways that it is easy to work with the numbers afterwards. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to cut it right here and right here. And then I'm going to check and see, do I have the numbers I need for this? Okay, so if I was to do this one first, I have the full line. The full line is 9. Do not use the 7 because the 7 is going to stop right here. Because of that, I don't have the full distance of the rectangle on that side. And so for this rectangle, it's going to be 9 times, and then I have the full width up here. That is going to be 4. So this first one is 36. And if I was to look at the other side, these measurement numbers are going to be the same. If you see the 7, it ends right here. So you don't want to use that. So you got your 4 times 9 again. So this side equals 36. Okay, so now for this rectangle here in the middle, I see that I have the 10. I have the 10, but I need to figure out this distance. Okay, so if I just look at the other information given to me, I have a 9 here that tells me from here to here is 9. And if I look at this 7 right here, it tells me from here all the way to here is 7. So from 7 is there to here is 9. That tells me this has to equal 2. It's going to be a 2. So now you see that 7, this 7 plus this 2 equals 9, which is the same distance to that side. So I have 10 times 2, that equals 20. So now I have my 3 measurements. I have 36 plus 20 plus 36. You can either add 2 of them up and the third one. You can multiply 36 times 2 because you have 2 of those and add the 20. I'm just going to add all 3 together. 6 plus 0 plus 6 is 12. 1 plus 3 is 4. Plus 2 is 6. Plus 3 is 9. So this answer is 92 meters squared. I'm going to erase all of this, and then I'm going to work the problem again just to show you that depending on the shape, you can change the shapes, and as long as you can get the side measurements correct for that. And so some of you, hopefully you worked it, you got the answer, you maybe did it this way. If you wanted, you could have made the shape this way. That's perfectly fine. Now this time, if I look at this first rectangle right here, I had the full distance, that's 4. And then the full distance coming down is going to be 7. So when I do it this way, this time it's going to equal 28. And then it's the same thing on this side. You can't use the 9 because the 9 goes all the way down. But I need to stop right here. So that tells me it's the 7. So I have the 7 and the 4. So 4 times 7 is 28. So those two sides are 28. And so now for this next rectangle, I'm going to cut it out and put it here on the side. You see that you had 10 right here. And that covers just this part of the shape. But I need to find this part and this part. So if I look at my rectangle, opposite sides are the same. So this line right here is 4. This 4 is also going to be right here on this side. So for my rectangle, I have 4 plus 10 is 14 plus 4, that is 18. So this entire line is going to be 18. So now I need to figure out this side. So now as I go down right here, I know I stopped at 7, and to get to the bottom is 9, so that total is going to have to be, is going to equal 2. From here up is 7, and then this bottom piece is 2. Those together make the 9. So this is going to be 2 on the side, and then I have all the way across as 18. This is going to equal 36. So if you worked it this way, you'll get the same answers as well. You have your sides of 28, 28, and then 36. So now when I go to add those together, 8 plus 8 is 16 plus 6, that's 22. 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 2 is 6. 6 plus 3 is 9, that equals 92. And so your answer you still get is 92 meters squared. So hopefully you see you can do it different ways. Make shapes where you can clearly find the side measurements. You got the assignment. I would encourage you to join the Zoom call. You can go over your work and check it, but your shapes will be just like these from this assignment.